Beetlejuice. 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 Beetlejuice is back, baby, and he wants to help you dye your wool the all-natural way. Want to know what I'm talking about? Stick around for this episode of Doll Belly Knits. Welcome to this episode of Doll Belly Knits. If you're a return viewer, thank you so much for coming back. And if you're a new viewer, thanks for stopping by and checking us out. I hope you like what you see. Other places that you can find me on social media include Instagram and Ravelry. Also, there is a group for this particular vlog on Ravelry. If you just search Doll Belly Knits, you'll find me and other viewers in the forums chit-chatting away about what we talk about on this episode. My vlog is a vlog devoted to knitting, crocheting, and other crafty things with a highlight on reusing, recycling, and using what you have on hand to make beautiful objects. So this episode, I'm going to walk you through some of my works in progress, some finished objects, and I'll talk to you about some magical memories that I've made over the week. First on my list is works in progress, and the one that I have that I'm working on is called the Bird of Fire. It is a pattern by Sarah Wilcox, and I have it right here in this bag. If you've seen some of my other episodes, you've seen some of my knitting bags being soap suds, sacks, or whatever I can find and use on hand. This happens to be a bag that was a t-shirt sheet set, so it all came in the bag. But it comes in a nice reclosable drawstring bag, so I grabbed it and used it. I'm pretty happy with using it for this project because of the color coordination that it has going on. Right, so Bird of Fire, let me show you a picture. This is a black and white copy of it, so doesn't really do it justice. But I have renamed the project Water Phoenix because of the particular color pattern that I've chosen. And here it is. Yeah. So I'm super excited. This pattern calls for a size 4mm and a size 3.75mm needle. It does call for 32-inch circulars, but I'm using 16-inch. I am a little concerned about the size that the project is turning out to be. It says that it's supposed to be 18 inches deep, and as you can see, this is where I am, and it's not near there, but hopefully aggressively blocking it will work it all out. Regardless, I really love the pattern. I love the color combo that I have going here, and I renamed it Water Phoenix because of the blue that I hand dyed myself, and the Easy Knits, which is called Siren Song, and it certainly made me think of mermaids. So I'm very happy with this pattern. It's easy to do. There's a little bit of change up, having to change up the needles and dropping yarn on one side and picking yarn up on the other side. So there is some variation, a little bit of technicality to it, but it's not so difficult that a beginner knitter even could work the pattern. So it's been lovely knitting it. Is a little bit addicting because you think I'm just going to get to the end of this flame or sky, as it's called in the pattern. I think of it as fins and water, but you think I'm just going to get to the end of that and then I'll stop, and then you kind of start over again. So it's definitely a little addicting. It's been a pleasure to knit so far, and I'm very excited to see how it's going to turn out. Additionally, my family and I went to a local sailing club this weekend, and we were able to sit out by the reservoir. And I'm not a in the water kind of person. I'm a by the water kind of person. So I was very delighted to be able to sit and knit by the water and watch the sailboats go by. And again, it was just really inspiring to have that kind of scenery and to be working on this particular pattern. So that's that, and I'll move on to my next work in progress. Goes back inside the bag. Okay. Another work in progress that I have going on is a pair of socks that I knitted for my husband 4 years ago, but he recently brought them to me and asked me to redo the cuff. The cuff is a little loose and it keeps falling down. I originally knitted the socks using a 3.75 millimeter needle, which I know is large, but if you're interested in how I came to using such a large needle, you can take a look back on one of my previous episodes where I discuss how I came to using such a large needle for sock knitting. What I decided to do is to unravel the cuff, I frogged it back, and to just use a smaller needle, a 2.75 to be exact, to see if that would maybe do it for him. Instead of drastically decreasing the number of stitches, I decided to go with a smaller needle. What that has done is have given me the opportunity to try out something new. This. So these are the Addy Crazy Trio, or Flexi Flips is another term that I've recently heard used to describe them. Basically, they are supposed to be a replacement for using 3/4 needles to knit a pair of socks. And they look like this. So this is pretty short, 7 inches maybe, a little bit bigger, and it's got this flexible bit in the middle. It also has, on one end, it's got a blunt, shorter tip, and the other end has a long, pointed, taper tip. So you kind of get 2 Addy needles in one, and you can choose which end you would like to use. I put them in the socks, as you can see, and when you're ready to knit your row, you just push all your stitches down to one end, pull up the yarn, and the back needle actually bends into a U shape. So if I can show you, you still end up having the triangle that you get when you use the 3 needles, but the back needle is bendable and flexible. I wanted to try it because knitting on 3 needles, or using 4 needles to knit, is how I learned to knit socks. So I thought it'd be interesting to give it a go. Honestly, I'm not in love with it. It basically puts you back in the frame of mind of using only 3 needles. I find that the needle that I just did the stitches on the back, it's still in my way, which was a problem for me when I was knitting with the 3 needles. I kind of felt like the needle that the stitches were previously on was in my way, and that kind of made things awkward. And yeah, it's definitely going to give me second sock syndrome because I can only make 1 sock at a time. So I'm not sold on them. They probably won't be part of my regular sock knitting repertoire, but I can say that I tried them. And I mean, if you are a devoted 1 sock at a time, 3 needle knitter, I can see the advantages of this, that it is a little less cumbersome than having the 3 needles in a triangle. It's a lot easier to put the work down and be reassured that your stitches aren't going to fall off. And yeah, you get the 2 needles in one, so if you happen to need a sharper, longer tapered edge, you got that. Or if you're using a wool, that it's okay to use the blunt short end, you got that too. So I can see advantages for people who really are die-hard 3 needle sock knitters, but I am not one of them. So I'll finish this up, and then I don't know what I'll do with these. Put them in the cabinet until I figure out something else. Okay. Other other things that are still work in progress are the reclaimed wool projects that I was working on. First, I reclaimed some wool from a sweater, and then I picked up a hat that I wanted to reclaim wool from. If you're interested in knowing how I reclaimed the wool from the sweater, you can take a look back at episodes 4 and 5. I charted the entire process from start to finish, so you can check that out and take a look at that. I'm still deciding what it is that I want to do with the reclaimed wool from the sweater. I'm working on a design, and I didn't want to go ahead and reclaim the wool from the hat until I had a better grip on what it is that I wanted to do with the sweater wool. Sweater wool is black. It's a DK weight, marled black. I'm thinking about making some type of accessory, so I'm still working on that. And then the other object was a hat, sparkly. This will be only a tiny bit of wool, so I won't have a lot to work with, and I will be limited in my design. I think I know what I want to do with this. However, again, I really didn't want to get started on this until I had a better grip on this. So, haven't forgotten about it, still working on it. I will let you know when I have more updates. The other two objects that are currently works in progress are baby blanket and the wedding blanket. You've seen these in the other episodes. I am turning the corner on the pink baby blanket, and that is great because once you turn the corner, so to speak, it becomes a lot easier to decrease and things seem to go faster whether they really are or not. Additionally, I have the green wedding blanket. Honestly, haven't touched that because that's not till August, and you know me, deadlines, they're all bendable and flexible. I did, however, pick up some additional greens that I'm hoping to add to the blanket. I picked up some Karen Super Soft. It was on sale. So I got these 3 colors. So I think those will make a nice addition. Also, I got this. It's called Studio Classic by Nicole. I've never actually seen this before, but it has shades of green with a touch of brown. So that continues on with the green theme that I have going on. These are all acrylic, which again is great for baby blankets because those little darlings make little messes, and they are washer and dryer friendly. I also do the same stitch. It is the end-to-end blanket or the brick stitch. I think it's just fantastic. It allows you to do a little bit of mindless crocheting, definitely great TV and cinema watching. So I highly recommend that you check that pattern out if you're looking for an easy go-to and you need to produce a blanket or, a blanket in top speed. Moving on to finished objects. My first finished object is my anniversary knickers. So last episode I showed them to you, sans the ribbon. I needed to get the ribbon and I went down to Dutton's for Buttons and I got the same kind of ribbon that I got for the stockings, just in a different color. That still is color coordinating. I'm pretty pleased with the way that they turned out. I don't like the way that the front rolls down. I could steam block it maybe, but additionally, the in-between interlude, aka the crotch, it's kind of thin. I probably would have liked a couple extra stitches, but again, it's not a practical item, so it doesn't really matter. I would show you photos, but I can't. I'm trying to keep this a G-rated show, but I will tell you they are hubby approved. Having said all that, this is a interesting pattern because it's lace. It's easy to follow. If lace is something that you've never done before and you're interested in giving it a go, this would be a nice pattern to try out. Also, if you're interested in knitting your own underwear, I would also say that this is a good pattern to try out, and that way you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. The other finished object that I completed recently was number 2 of the baby blankets that I was working on. It was the blue baby blanket. It was the blue baby blanket for friends of mine who just had their second son. I can't show it to you because I've already packaged it up and put it in the mail and it's on its way. However, I was really pleased with the way it turned out, especially since I took a risk with the way that I crocheted the blanket. I chose 2 different types of blue, grabbing 2 skeins of each blue color, and I chose to make those the end bits of the blanket and to have a white stripe in the middle. So I only got 1 skein of white. And what I needed to do was actually split the white exactly in half. In order to do that, I used my mom's Weight Watchers scale, which is from way back in the day. And that was actually interesting to pull out and brought back some fond memories because my mom was into Weight Watchers after she had my brother. And we weighed our food. We had Weight Watchers margarine. So any of you people who know about that will know what I'm talking about. But suffices to say, the scale still worked, and I was able to evenly divide the white out, and I didn't end up being short on the end with the blue. So I was really pleased about that. I really do love that pattern. Now we come to the part of the show that I like to call Magical Memories. This week, I went to a wool dyeing demonstration at Fountains Abbey. Fountains Abbey is a local historical site. It's an old abbey or a monastery. When we got to the building that the dyeing demonstration was being held in, we were greeted by a 60-meter long scarf. The volunteers put on these demonstrations on a yearly basis during the spring. So they already started making the scarf for next year's dyeing demonstrations, and they invited everybody to get some stitches in to help make it grow even longer than the 60 meters. There was first a brief history of sheep at the Abbey and wool and how important it was to the Abbey in terms of trade and market. But there were also lots of examples of wool dyed with natural products. In particular, the one item that they use to get the color red is called Cochineal. And I asked the woman to spell that and asked her what it was, and it's actually Beetlejuice or crushed up beetles. That was just freaky and crazy, but it made a brilliant red. It really did. Other plants and herbs that they used included oak and birch bark for some browns, and they used a plant called weld or dyer's root for yellow and green. They even had some blues, which I was really surprised at because it wasn't using blueberries, which is usually what you think of. It was using a European plant called woad, W-O-A-D. The setup that they had for the dyeing demonstration was the full kit and caboodle. They had iron kettles, they had an open fire, and of course I took pictures and will insert them during the program. It was very fascinating, and the ladies had a lot of knowledge to share, and they were happy to do so. And like I said, this particular program happens once a month in the springtime, every year. So if you're nearby and you're interested, I definitely recommend that you check it out and see what's on about. I did get a lovely present from the dyeing demonstration because they were selling some of the wool. Mel brought me back this. So this is just a random little bit, as she says. It's 25 grams of Iran weight wool. It's actually a rare breed white-faced woodland sheep, and it was dyed red using a plant called madder root. So again, there are lots of things in nature that will get you very bright colors, which I guess is a surprise. In some cases, I was really surprised by the blue. I didn't think that you would be able to get that, especially since the plant is green. So anyway, I thought that was really interesting, and I recommend that you go ahead and stop by and have a look at that if you're able to. So it just goes to show you that you may have what you need on hand in your house to get a job done. In regards to dyeing wool, everybody usually has a stash of cake decorating supplies shoved in the back of their cupboard that they pull out once a year. You may be able to find some plants in your backyard. Dandelions are prolific this time of year. So I do encourage you to take a look around and see what you have on hand to make some beautiful things. And remember, if you decide you're going to give dyeing a go, share your projects using the hashtag #DyeOneSkein. That's it for me in this episode of Doll Belly Knits. If you like what you saw, please click the thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss out on any episodes. Leave a comment in the box below telling me hi, how you doing, and any comments and feedback you may have. Until we see each other again, I wish you happy knitting, and I hope that you get out there and make some magical memories of your own. Bye. Oh, goodness gracious. Ugh. Do not eat chicken korma before you podcast. Which usually is a lot, holy moly! Let's try that again.